So third grade, what is the focus this week with our open syllable? What new thing did we learn? We learned that if you have a Y in an open syllable, whether it is a one-syllable word or a multi-syllabic word, and you add a suffix, no matter if it's a vowel suffix or a consonant suffix, except for, remember there's always an exception, ing, you change the Y to an I and add ES. We also learned that if you have a word with an open syllable O at the end, you also add ES. So right now, we're going to do a couple together. If I wanted to say that you dried the dishes. You dried the dishes. How would you spell dried? Write that down on your paper. What if you said you tidied, you were tidying up? You were tidying up, which means you were cleaning up. You're going to add ing to tidy. Do that now. If you want to say your brother cries a lot, you're going to add the suffix es. How would you say cries? How would you say that you think escargot, or snails, people eat those, Mr. Descalakis eats them, are nastier to eat than, oh, I don't know, liver? You're going to add the er suffix. How would you spell that? What if I want to say I have to make some copies, plural? I need to make some copies, plural. How would you spell that? So do that right now. Take a minute. Pause the video if you need to. Okay, so this is dried in the past tense, right? This ed suffix means in the past. You dried the dishes last night. So if I dried the dishes, I change that Y to an I and I add my ed suffix. I dried the dishes. This is present tense, right? I'm tidying up. I'm cleaning up. So in the present tense, I would add the suffix ing. Now remember, that's the only time you leave the Y. Did you leave the Y? Because we don't put double I's. Okay, so this is a verb, subject-verb agreement, right? The baby cries. It's crying in past tense. The baby cries. If you want to say the baby cries, you have to change that Y to an I and add ES. The baby cries. What if you want to say escargot is nastier than liver to eat? I've actually never had liver, but I can't imagine it would taste good. I have had escargot once. It tastes like mushrooms, actually. If something is nastier, right, it's worse. You're comparing two things. You change that Y to an I, and you add the ER. And then the last one, you want to make that plural. You want to say, I need to run some copies for you. I'm making that plural. If I make copy plural, I don't do this, right? Typically, when we make a word plural, we just add an S, right? But that's not what you do. That's wrong. When you make a word plural and it ends with a Y, you have to change that Y to an I and add ES. Copy. This is plural, right? 1 copy, 3 copies. You see the difference. How'd you do on that side? Okay, let's move over here to the next side. What if you say that your mom always babies your brother? Babies him. That means that she treats him like a baby. If she babies him, you need to change. What did you say? Did you spell babies? Or there are so many babies running around the house? The attack of the babies, revenge of the babies. That would be a funny story. You change that Y to an I and add ES. The only time you wouldn't do that if you want to say, my mom is babying my brother. She's babying him. She's treating him like a baby. If you add the ing, you keep the Y. What if you wanted to say plural? The ladies were talking. The ladies were talking about school. The ladies were talking about school. Lady, two open syllables, ends with a Y, adding a suffix. It doesn't matter if it's a vowel suffix or a consonant suffix, as long as it's not an ing. I must change that Y to an I and add ES. What if you wanted to make family plural? The families, 5 families were coming to the party. 5 families were coming to the party. You want to make family plural. Usually if we make family plural, you just add an S, right? So you would say, there we go, families. I'm adding my S to make it plural. So for an open syllable with a Y, that Y changes to an I, and then you add ES. Families. Looks like families, families, but it's families. Look at that word, family. And then remember our O rule. If a word ends with O and you make it plural, potatoes, tomatoes, you add the ES to make those plural. Okay, that's all we have for Unit 7, 3rd grade. Just this rule of adding suffixes to words that end in Y and suffixes to words that end in O. If they end in O, you add an ES. If it ends with a Y, you change the Y to an I and add the suffix. Unless it is an ing, then you keep the Y, like in tidying or babying. Good job, 3rd grade.